What's up guys, Trevor Hunter here with Dirt Bike Test. We just finished up our first day of riding on the 2025 Yamaha YZ250F. We're out here at Fox Raceway and doing the media intro day with all the other media outlets. And yeah, we just wrapped up our first day of riding on this kind of newly updated YZ250F. Last year, the 2024 version got quite a few of the chassis updates, but the motor largely remained intact from the previous generation. And for 2025, this bike received a few more chassis updates, but no motor updates. So the updates to this new bike include the linkage that now it shares with the 2025 YZ450F, as well as a lighter shock spring and different fork and shock settings to accommodate the new linkage and chassis setup. Another thing to note is the fork height is now down to 5 millimeters, whereas last year I believe it was around 7 to 8 millimeters. That's something we've kind of played with on our 2024 test bike. Was we dropped the forks I think a little bit more than 5 millimeters. I think it was like 2 to 3 millimeter fork height, but Yamaha kind of went in that direction, dropping it down to 5 from that 7 millimeter height that they had last year. So overall, this bike was really impressive. Last year's bike I thought was good, but I wasn't completely sold on the total package. The motor, although they didn't really make too many updates, mainly just ECU updates, a few internal updates, but really nothing crazy. The motor coming from the 2023 had a lot less bottom end and torque that we became accustomed to on the YZ250F. It for sure was class leading, and I believe it still is, but it's just not as big of a gap or big of a jump from one bike to this bike. This bike is more in line with the more traditional 250F, where not as much torque down low. So if you're not revving the bike, it takes a little bit to pick up and build up the RPMs. Whereas the old 2023 and previous bike, you could lug it pretty good and almost ride it like a 350. Had a lot of torque for a 250F. While that was a good platform, we always thought it was very effective to ride, but maybe not quite as fun to ride. Whereas now this new motor, it's a little more high strung. You got to be a little bit more aggressive, and like I said, it's more like a traditional 250F, and I think it's a lot more fun to ride. But some of our vet guys or lesser experienced guys find it maybe a little bit harder to ride than the old bike. But then again, it still has, I say, class leading torque and bottom end power. So like I said, it's not what you would expect if you're coming off a 2023 or previous, but it's still very good, and Yamaha made a lot of gains in that mid to top end range, where maybe it struggled a little bit before, but it had so much power down low that it didn't even matter, whereas now the bike's a little more even power across the board, which is a lot more fun, and it kind of appeals to a little more your younger and more aggressive riders. But moving on to the chassis, this is something we felt we struggled with the 2024 bike. We felt the chassis was a little bit unbalanced setup, a softer fork, softer front end that would get low in the stroke a lot of times, especially with our heavier riders or our faster riders. You come on decel and the fork would dive and just get too low in the stroke, and kind of just upset the chassis. And this new bike, or the newly updated bike, is a lot flatter on decel and under acceleration, a lot more comfy, and something we weren't fighting today. Obviously the track wasn't super rough. There's only a few bikes out there at the time, but got a little bit of some braking bumps, and the track had some whoops and some big jumps that we got a decent feel for it, and we say it feels a lot improved over the 2024 bike. And the fork has a lot better hold up. Still has a really good initial comfort, but it has a lot better hold up, so you don't get as deep into the stroke on decel and then some of the bigger bumps and the steeper jump faces. So some of the suspension changes we made today, we started off or quite early in the day. There's a couple of spots where some braking bumps, and we get the rear end would kind of kick and then carry into some of the corners. So we took about 1/8 of a turn of high-speed compression out of the rear shock to soften that up, and that helped that quite a bit. Just soften the blow a little bit and let the rear end kind of track through the bumps that lift and carry. So that helped quite a bit. And then towards the end of the day, as it got a little bit rougher, that got a little more blown out, we ended up slowing the rebound down 1 click on the shock to kind of help firm it up a little bit. And on some of the corner exits, we felt the bike would kind of get a little deep into the stroke and then rebound out. And so slowing that rebound down kind of helped firm it up a little bit, as well as slow that rebound out on under hard acceleration. And then to the forks, we ended up stiffening it up 2 clicks, just and some of the hard braking. We felt at times if the rear end carried a little bit too much, the front would get a little deep in the stroke and a little nervous feeling. So once we stiffened it up 2 clicks, that helped just enough to keep the comfort, but got rid of that little nervous feeling and helped keep it a little higher in the stroke on hard braking. So just some minor suspension clicker changes that we did today. Sag was right around 105 millimeters, and we were pretty happy with that. But overall, bike was really, really good. It's super lightweight feeling. This bike is probably one of the best cornering bikes I feel like I've ever ridden. You could lay it into a corner. You could stand up into the middle towards the exit of the corner, then sit down. You could stand up all the way through a corner. This bike felt really versatile in the cornering prowess. It just, very confidence inspiring and made me feel a lot faster than I typically do on a motocross track, being that I'm an off-road guy. And cornered really well. And even on some of the high-speed stuff, it wasn't Glen Helen on Thursday afternoon, so it wasn't anything super challenging in terms of stability testing or anything like that, but overall felt very stable, very comforting, and we never really struggled finding comfort on this bike. Like I said, very confident inspiring. The harder we pushed it, the better it worked, and felt really comfortable, and we're really happy with the performance of this bike. So motor, very good package, still one of the best, if not the best in class. And then some of the chassis updates we were struggling with last year seem to be fixed so far on this 2025 version. So one of the things we did notice that we struggled with a little bit last year and hasn't changed is second gear runs out pretty quick. So coming into some of the corners, it's hard to pull third gear with this motor style. So feel like we have to shift into second more, which is quite normal for a 250F. But second gear runs out pretty quick, and at times we even find ourselves wanting to shift into third, immediately exiting a corner, or even sometimes before the exit of a corner. Just second gear runs out a little quick, so we like to maybe play with some gearing a little bit more. Ideally, it would be probably more of an internal change with the transmission, but I feel like we could get there with gearing, and just make it either be able to run third gear or just lengthen second gear a little bit. But overall, really solid package. We're pretty pleased with this, and we feel like Yamaha made some improvements over the 2025 version. So for more on this bike, stay tuned to dirtbiketest.com for more, and we'll see you out on the track.